Alright, mic check. Good, the mic is working. Ready to go. Let's get this position a bit closer to my face. After having to move it to listen to see if the mic was working. The day that I end up having a PC for streaming, it's going to be so much better. Right. We are ready to go, ready to rock. We are back investigating what happened. In the police department, the crime department's evidence room? We haven't talked to Gumshoe yet last time, from what I remember, so we'll go back and examine everything. Wow, look at this big pile of junk in the corner. That looks like a car door, or that looks like a car door. It's a pair of handcuffs attached to the frame. Maybe the guy they caught was some sort of escape artist and he got away. Hey, that's one of those human profiles for range testing. He's been shot square in the forehead. Better him than us. There's something sticking out of here. Looks like a shirt. I guess it must be evidence for some case. I wonder if Detective Gumshoe put this here. There you go, pal, making me out to be some kind of slob. I'm not responsible for the evidence here, that said. I bet that evidence locker was opened recently. How do you know? If you leave things hanging out like that, the evidence gets dirty or ripped. The guard checks on that kind of stuff and notifies the detective responsible. How many times have I had him breathing down my neck about some silly evidence? Sounds like Detective Gumshoe leaves evidence hanging out a lot, too. I bet he doesn't tuck in his shirt under that trench coat either. If you're gonna talk about something behind someone's back, don't do it right in front of them, pal. This place is stuffed with evidence, stuffed with dreams. I'm not sure about the dreams. It won't open. Did you really think it would? Hey pal, our security is high-tech around here. Some sort of bulky equipment is gathering dust here. What a sorry-looking fishing pole that is. Ah, that's my personal pole. I never did get around to using it. Wait, I've seen that somewhere before. Right, pal, that's a metal detector. The one that led to solving the case out at the Gourd Lake, remember? Oh right, wow, that feels like it was ages ago. And, I don't think I've seen this one before. Oh that's a bug sweeper. I'm sure it will come in handy in solving some case sooner or later. Cheap looking box. You can't judge a person or a machine by their cover, you gotta look at their heart. What is a saw and paint doing here? Since the dawn of time, true art has always been a war against oppression. True art? I notice that there's blue and yellow paint here. Perhaps we're witnessing the birthplace of the Blue Badger? Well, you might say this is my studio. Here, in the evidence room? Someone left a glove here, but only one. Detective Gumshoe, maybe? There you go, pal, making me out to be some kind of absent-minded detective. That's evidence from the case, you know? You mean SL9? It does have a tag on it. If you put these pieces together, it makes a jar. There are two things that bother me. One, why are some of the pieces missing? Two, doesn't it seem a little unstable? No wonder it broke. I'll make sure to remember that next time I make a jar. Excuse me. Let's talk to Gummy Boy. So, Detective Gumshoe, you're the boss for the day? That's right, it's an honor. After all, the murder took place right here in the police department. But if you're boss, why are you all alone? Where are your underlings? They're using yesterday's findings to prepare for tomorrow's trial. In other words, you got kicked out of the investigation again. I'm adamant, though. I'm gonna take control and put this case to rest. In my own evidence locker, pal. You have a locker in here too, Detective Gumshoe? Aha, of course! I'm a detective after all. They gave me a locker that I can only open, pal. Only I can open, pal. Only you can open? This place is more high-tech than you might think. Every locker is fixed so only one detective can open it. Using their ID card? Well, that's the thing, pal. ID cards can be lost. I am on my third card since entering the force already. That sounds like a lot. Yeah, but even I can't lose my own right hand. Right hand? Oh, you mean your fingerprint. Exactly, pal. The lock for each locker is coded with a fingerprint. So the only locker we can open is our own. Funny, they look like normal lockers. These are the latest model. There's a trick to the handle, see? Handles? On the other side of the handles is a sensor, and if the wrong person touches it, bizap, you get a shock. If that's what happened, my hand would be black and smoking every day. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There are even some people in the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks. I'll always believe in Mr. Edgeworth no matter what happens. So, Mr. Edgeworth is with the inquiry committee right now, right? They're trying to figure out who's responsible for the mess up in court today. I see. I guess this is what you call fate. Mr. Edgeworth just can't get away from that case. That case? Yeah, that case. The SL9 incident, of course. That was the beginning of the end for Mr. Edgeworth. Maybe we can get him to tell us more about the case. Okay, we have all the blood marked. That smell. Ah, reminds me of Texas. So, Officer Marshall, you're from Texas? No, I just saw a special on television the other day. Is this from my baby? Oh yeah, Miss Star. Well, what's this? What? What's wrong? Fed at steak lunch? I see. I see! I don't see. I wonder what it means. Steak lunch given to Officer Marshall. Alright, Bambina, you win. Ask anything. Finally, it seems like he's willing to talk. Officer Marshall, you're in charge of the security for the evidence room, right? You got good eyes, partner. It's an easy job, and I'm grateful for it. Actually, Officer Meekins at the detention center told us. Ah, that poor little doggy? Poor guy. I keep getting his name wrong and calling him Meekly. He told us something. He said that when the stabbing occurred, you weren't at your station. Well, maybe I shouldn't be telling you this, but since I got the motives from Detective 2 years ago, well, it might not look it, but I lost my fire for the job, you know? So, what were you doing around 5:15 when the murder took place? Well, I reckon I was galloping down the highway on the back of my steed, Zippy. Note, he was riding down the highway on his horse named Zippy. There's no need for people here anyhow, but these newfangled machines do a bang-up job of keeping an eye on the place. You mean the security camera system? I don't take to machines much. Kinda like that stewed broccoli steak. They sneak in next to your steak, you know? I know, maybe 2 of the machines in here too. Only 2 of them? There must be a dozen. Like I said, Bambino, the meat machines, well, I like them about as much as I like stewed cauliflower with my steaks. The easiest ones to understand are those here security cameras. Those are the ones that Officer Meekins mentioned. If nothing happens, the tapes are automatically erased every few hours. And Officer Meekins and Detective Goodman, are they on one of those tapes? I reckon they might be. You're the security guard and you reckon? One more thing. When you go into the evidence room, you need an ID card. Thus the card reader by the door. The card reader leaves a record of every ID card that passes through. So this is the ID card record. Hey, I've seen that somewhere before. Sorry, Bambina, I can't show you more than that. Huh? I haven't heard whether this is related to the case yet. Mr. Wright, I saw a number in that record just now. I've seen that number before. Maybe there's some way I can prove that record is tied to the stabbing. Miss Starr told us something. She said that you were a detective until 2 years ago. It was always my dream to be a rawhide wrangler on the scene of the crime. That's all gone now, like a drinking hole in the prairie fire. You're still investigating the SL9 incident with Miss Starr, aren't you? That was my case. It's all solved in the record books, but it smells like a bad game of poker. I can't let it go. That's all there is to it. What kind of case was it anyway? We've heard the name so many times, but no one tells us what actually happened. There are some things you're better off not knowing, Bambina. Anyway, that case is officially dead as of 2 days ago. 2 days ago? The day of our case. That's right. The evidence transferals. Edwards was talking about the transferals too. Sorry, but could you explain what this whole transferal thing is about? We only keep evidence from solved cases in this room. They're kept under here, the presiding detective's supervision for 2 years. So we can reinvestigate them as if it turns out there was a mistake, see? So, what happens to the evidence after 2 years? It goes to sleep forever in the underground vault at the county sheriff's department. That's what we call transferal. We do it every February. I see now. Transferal is like the funeral for old cases. 2 years after a case is solved, it's closed forever, dead. Never to be reopened again, never being reinvestigated. And that happened to SL9 2 days ago. See, this is the victim's ID card. Ah, the one that was on the ground in the parking lot? The number on this is 5842189. Officer Marshall, show us the ID card record again. Yeah, 514. Look, the 4th number is a perfect match. It was used at 514, right before the stabbing. What's more, there's only one of them cards in the world. So when the incident occurred, Detective Goodman was in the evidence room. But wait, what did Officer Meekins say? Sir, I entered the evidence room and asked the man to display his ID card. So you asked Detective Goodman to show his ID card? What did he do? That's the thing, suddenly he pointed a knife at me. If he had his ID card, then why would he have pointed a knife at Officer Meekins? Alright, compadre, you win. I guess I can give you this ID card record. I've got an idea. Maybe I should show list other people with IDs here. Could you take a look at this? This is the ID card record of people who came in here on the day of the stabbing. Ah, I heard the rumors. So it was Goodman who came in here. Whoa! What is it? That second number. It's not your ID card number, is it, Detective Gumshoe? Mr. Edgeworth! What? The second number on this list belongs to Mr. Edgeworth. What? Oh, hello, TXG. Welcome to the stream of dreams. Why would Edgeworth have come to the evidence room? Okay. Right, well, we've got that down. Okay, so we are filling it in as we go along. I have a feeling the one at 514 then will be Meekins, so we'll go and fill that in. Officer Meekins, could you take a look at this? Oh, okay, never mind. Bum bum. Okay, nobody here. Okay, so nothing more out of her. Right, okay. You can't open the lockers if your fingerprint doesn't match. If you can open it, they'll give you 50 cents. No, the police department lacks faith in its lock system. After all, Detective Goodman was stabbed here after opening his locker. But at the same time, he was found dead over at the prosecutor's office. Right. Oh, Detective Goodman's note on that switchblade knife. I bet Edgeworth was the most surprised of anyone. Because of the SL9 connection? That was Mr. Edgeworth's first big case, you know, 2 years ago. That was the first time the world knew Edgeworth was a man to be feared. But why would evidence from that case turn up now? I guess it's not over, pal. Maybe there are some loose ends left in that case. Okay. It's my crowning achievement, my masterpiece, you might say. But art is always misunderstood, pal. Art? He was dancing proudly on the day after the awards ceremony, but there were a lot of people coming and going after the ceremony. So they took the Blue Badger away for a while. Really? Why? Oh, they said it was shameful or something like that. Shameful? I toiled day and night. I sympathize with Detective Gumshoe, but I can see why they moved it. I can't spray anything yet, no. Oh, okay. Now that was a bloody violent case. Violent? So it was a murder? A serial killing? A serial killing? Maybe I don't want to get involved in this after all. But the killer made a mistake, and Mr. Edgeworth built his case around that to nab him. And This was 2 years ago? That put Mr. Edgeworth right in the spotlight and started the rumor mill. Rumors about forged evidence? It was supposed to be all cleaned up with the transferal the other day. It was his last job he ever did. Detective Goodman, that is. Oh, what do you mean? Detective Goodman was the detective in charge of the SL9 incident, see? So that switchblade knife. The victim took the knife out of the evidence locker himself? Hey pal, look at the time. Was there something you needed to be going to? It's just that Mr. Edgeworth's inquiry committee should be letting out soon. I'm gonna give him my report for the day. It might help, you know? Report? You mean the note written on the back of that flyer? The one that says nothing but no problems? Hey, that's Mr. Edgeworth we're talking about here. I'm sure he can use a report like this. I believe in him. Who needs enemies when you've got frails like Detective Gumshoe? I'm off, pal. Later. Per Gumshoe. Let's really see what Edgeworth has to say too. Right, okay, so now we can go to the High Prosecutor's office. Here we go. Ah, Guess, my apologies. Oh, it's you. Have we met somewhere? Huh? Mr. Edgeworth, I beg your leave, so long. Is Edgeworth here? There, standing by the window, a teacup in his hand. Right. Is the hotel bring him tea service? Mr. Edgeworth, you're back from the district prosecutor's office inquiry. I am. By the way, Detective Gumshoe was looking for you. Yes. He brought me the latest information, it seems. Really? Was it helpful? Apparently, a new French restaurant is opening near here. I think he was trying to console me somehow. Oh, and the real info's on the other side, Edgeworth. Poor Mr. Edgeworth, I think this whole thing is really taking a toll on him. So, how did the inquiry committee go? Actually, they decided to treat this as a case of concealing evidence. But it's a communications error during an investigation. Concealing evidence? Yes, apparently there are some who believe that I concealed evidence. They gave me a warning. You were lucky this time. Again. Again? I've heard them say that so many times. Ever since that case 2 years ago. Are you okay for the trial tomorrow? Well, I'm still the presiding prosecuting attorney, however. Something happened. They gave control of the investigation over to the police department. The police department? Yes, any further investigation for this case will be directed by the chief of police can't. I can do nothing but wait for his results. I see. Why, I ask you, why? All along, I've done only what I believe is right. I have nothing to be ashamed of. But still... Wow, I've never seen him this side of sorts. Alright, I'd better check this now. As I was saying, What's this? A record of ID card usage? Edgeworth, you went into the evidence room that day, didn't you? Just before the incident occurred, no less. Yes, that's true. Why, Mr. Edgeworth? Please, don't look at me like that. I was asked to go, by Chief Gat, no less. Chief of Police? He wanted evidence for a case that wrapped up half a year ago. He told me he wanted me to keep it here in the prosecutor's office. But it was solved, right? It would have to be if the evidence was already filed. The Chief is never one to explain himself. In any case, on the day of the stabbings, I brought this back here. Can I ask what kind of case it was? I can't say. It really has nothing to do with the current case. Now I'm curious about this other case. I'd better make a note of it. Stubborn as always. I told you this has nothing to do with the current case. AI-16. What's that got to do with anything? Nothing, apparently. At least that's what Edward said. That makes it all seem the more suspicious. Who knows, this might turn out to be the clue that breaks the case. Wouldn't that be nice? Right, please, I'm the prosecutor in this case. You don't expect me to sit here and discuss the case with you over a cup of tea? I'll pass on the tea, just tell me about the case. Mr. Wright, Mr. Edwards just told you no in a very polite manner. Whose side are you on, anyway? Maybe if I just show him my best evidence I can get some reaction out of him. Maybe I already showed him the best evidence with the card. Probably, Oh well, that won't stop us from continuing on. Oh, fuck. We'll come back and read through this again, right? I know, you've probably got hold of some information already, right? It all has to do with that case you're on, the SL9 incident. And some dark suspicion you were wrapped up in. You're the man who revived the worst memory of my life. I figured I'd be telling you about this sooner or later. You must be talking about his father's murder in that elevator. Okay, Edgeworth, why don't you tell me about it? Tell me the truth. Okay. The SL9 incident was a heinous serial killing case. The head of the investigation was the Deputy Chief of Police at the time, Damon Gant. That wacky old coot was involved in the case 2 years ago too, then. He was a top officer, and it was my first time working with him. I was nervous. Wow, you get nervous too, Mr. Edgeworth? What I want to know is why a Deputy Chief of Police off on the investigation. In truth, I used slightly more extreme methods than normal. We were dealing with a vicious murderer. If I let him go, the blood would be on my hands. We won our guilty verdict and the killer was executed. Wait, you didn't? Of course not. I didn't touch the evidence. Yes, I will do anything in my power to win a trial. However, I do have a code and I follow it faithfully. By the way, Emma, the chief prosecutor wanted to know something. My sister? What? If you were still studying for forensic science... Oh, yes, of course. Why, just today Mr. Wright and I were using this. Luminol testing fluid, Well then, you might have use for this. Aluminum powder for taking fingerprints. It's been chemically treated for better adhesion. For me? Are you sure? We are the enemy, you know. I've no say in today's investigation. Do as you will. Edgeworth, I'm really... No need to thank me. Here, take your powder and these fingerprint files for everyone involved. Thanks! How about giving these to Detective Gumshoe as well? Well, let's get going. One last investigation. Right. I do seem to remember seeing a suspicious handprint somewhere. Alright, well I guess it's time to, get fucking around with this stuff. It's Y to use, right? Maybe I can't use it here, okay. Oh, so she's gone. Can I use it here? No. Okay. See if we can get dusting for prints. Okay, maybe we can just use it in here. Our investigation turned up a suspicious handprint. Here, in this blood on the detective's evidence locker. Let's use the secret weapon we just borrowed. Oh, so I can't just use it anywhere. Right, let's get started. First, choose a finger. A finger? Each finger leaves behind a slightly different imprint. So let's choose the finger that will leave behind the clearest print. I really can't tell the difference at a glance. Quit procrastinating and choose a finger. I find it funny now that it just feels weird to be doing this with a controller rather than the touchscreen. Right, let's choose one that doesn't have a clear one just to see what happens. Okay, now it's time to check for prints. Let me show you how it's done. Emma's starting to get that sparkle in her eyes. First, we sprinkle the aluminum powder around. Huh? How do you do that? With the A button, see? Ah, it looks like that did the trick. The aluminum powder adheres completely to the print. Once the powder is well spread, just blow away the excess. I'm pretty sure that, like, you had to actually blow into the mic on the DS2, if I remember correctly. Ah, how do I do that? With the Y button. Exciting, I know. Imagine you're blowing out the candles on a birthday cake. See? Or I'm sure you could, like, just do it with the mic on the DS. I know you could shout objection on that on the DS anyway. Wow, that looks like fun. Might take some getting used to though. It's fine, it won't go up your nose or anything. You just pour the powder on thick and blow away the extra. Those are the basics of fingerprinting, Mr. Wright. I guess I'd better give it a try. Why does it feel like I'm about to do cocaine or something? Aha, you did it. You found one. But this looks nothing like a fingerprint. Now that you mention it, I guess it doesn't. What does it mean? I think it means we're out of luck. Out of luck? The person who left this fingerprint must have worn gloves. Don't tell me we've been wasting our time here. Hey, calm down, that's just the way it goes sometimes with scientific investigations. But it does seem a shame. While we're at it, why don't we look for other prints? Other prints? Looking at the locker door again closely. It seems like there are fingerprints outside the bloody handprint as well. Let's see if we can find a clear print. Fingerprints outside the blood. Oh, that doesn't count as clear? Okay, I guess I need to pour a bunch more down here. Yay, a print so clear it's dazzling. Dazzling? Anyway, this print looks took a lot of effort to find. Let's match it up right away. So we're not done yet? This is quite a process. Well, there's no point in finding a fingerprint and not knowing who the owner is, right? I guess she's right. Look at the fingerprint data we got from Mr. Edgeworth, and point out the person you think left these prints. Huh? How am I supposed to know who it was? I could make a pretty good guess. The bloody handprint and the fingerprints are in different places, right? That means that the prints probably don't have anything to do with our case. No idea why my phone just kicked off as if I said, "Okay, Google." Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, I shouldn't have said that, right? Weird. That means the prints probably don't have anything to do with our case. So whose fingerprints would we most likely find in this evidence locker? Aha! So these prints belong to Detective Gumshoe. Something wrong, Mr. Wright? You gave me this so what look. I guess that's probably because I was thinking so what. Okay, so we came up with nothing this time, but there's always next time. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. You gotta roll with the punches, Mr. Wright. Thanks for the sympathy. Wait. Well, if I remember correctly, there was one other handprint in this room. Let's check it out. This is where we got a luminol fluid reaction, right? Right. There was a handprint here. Okay, want to try using this? There go her eyes sparkling again. Okay, let's check for prints. That's the spirit. Oh, but I have to warn you about something first. What? The area with the blood was wiped away, right? We only ended up finding it using chemical means. Any prints in that area will have been wiped away too. Oh, right. So that means no prints. Would you say the probability of your hypothesis is high? Don't ask me. Anyway, we must try to find prints that weren't wiped away. Prints other than the ones left by the bloody hand. Forensics. But it's not that one. It's Jake. It's Jake. It's actually Jake. Hey, these fingerprints, they... Whose are they? Whose? Is it someone I know? It's Officer Marshall. Huh? Officer Jake Marshall? That's got to be a coincidence. He's not involved in this crime. Emma? This is decidedly different from Detective Gumshoe's prints. The luminol reaction. The blood and the fingerprints are in the same place. Oh, oh! So we have Jake Marshall's fingerprints on a wiped bloodstain. But why would Officer Marshall? It looks like our investigation is finally turning up some results. I guess this is what you'd call decisive evidence. I don't believe it. Okay, I guess now it's back to the courtroom. Fucking half an hour, and we must have spent about an hour in that investigation in the stream on Wednesday or Thursday, so... yeah, long one. Right, February 24th, 9:41 AM, District Court, Defendant Lobby number 2. So what do you think, Mr. Wright? I think the prosecution is as confused as we are. After all, the victim was murdered in 2 different places at the same time. But a different suspect was arrested at each of the crime scenes. Lana! Good morning, Mr. Wright. I apologize for yesterday. I was indisposed. I hope they didn't hold you too long for questioning. We just finished, actually. I'm used to all-nighters, though. So, how'd it go? It's as Mr. Wright suspects. The police are clueless. I figured as much, so I struck a plea bargain. A plea bargain? What do you mean by that? We agreed that if I told them the truth behind this simultaneous murder, they wouldn't seek capital punishment. That's what I mean, Emma. But Lana, don't tell me you... Much to my regret, I'm as much in the dark about this as they are. Miss Skye? We found trace evidence of a certain person in the police department's evidence room. They belong to Officer Jake Marshall. What kind of trace evidence? Bloodstained fingerprints, to be exact. That's the trump card I have up my sleeve today. You do understand what this means, don't you? In order to defend my sister, you're going to accuse Mr. Marshall? We have to play the cards we're dealt. Isn't that right, Miss Skye? Do what you have to do, Mr. Wright. February 24th, 10 AM, District Court, Courtroom number 9. Right, court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is... I'm afraid you'll have to clarify. It takes 30 minutes by car to reach the police department from the prosecutor's office. Yet the victim, Bruce Goodman, was slain at both places at the same time. But that's not physically possible, is it? What's more, I hear the victim from the evidence room just disappeared. Yes, and the body eventually reappeared in the trunk of Mr. Edwards' car. Wow, this is one messed up trial. One of my duties as prosecutor is to present impartial evidence. Today, I will present evidence relating to the murder at the police department. In so doing, I believe the way in which we should proceed will reveal itself soon. Now, that's what sets Mr. Edgeworth apart. He sounds so on top of things, even though he doesn't know what's going on himself. And that's supposed to be an admirable trait? Very well, let the trial resume. On the day of the crime, what exactly transpired at the police department? Mr. Edgeworth, you may call your first witness of the trade to the stand. For its first witness, the prosecution calls the suspect of that murder that occurred at the police department. The suspect? You mean the so-called murderer? Things are getting wild from the get-go. Will the witness please state his name and occupation? Yes, sir! I am Officer Meekins, sir! Mike Meekins, sir! My occupation is, that would be murderer, sir! So you're telling us you're a professional killer? Sir, it was me, sir! I'm the one who did it! I'll never kill anyone again, sir! You've got to believe me, sir! Actually, what we'd like... Sir, I'm what we would call of the younger generation, sir! A person whose actions adults can't possibly comprehend! Please, Mr. Edgeworth, sir, help me, sir. Officer Meekins. Yes, sir! Give us your report of the crime. Consider that an order. Yes, sir, as you wish! After all, I am part of a generation that must be told what to do, sir! You can't fault him for a lack of enthusiasm. Although it's not my normal duty, I was assigned to guard the evidence room that day. I spotted the suspicious man on the security screen and rushed into the room. I was only doing what I was trained to do, sir. I was suddenly attacked. I fought for my life, then I did it. After that, I passed out until another officer smacked me awake. So the victim, Detective Goodman, attacked you? Do unto others before they do unto you. That's the Meekins family motto, sir. I see. Then you fainted and a colleague helped you regain consciousness. Yes, sir. He knocked me upside the head, sir. Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination. What I need here is more info to work with. Yeah, no shit I need to press. Find out what he did. What exactly do you mean when you say you did it? I know I don't look the type, but I'm really into kung fu films, sir. The man let his guard down for just an instant, so I snatched his knife from him. You took his knife? I spun him around and performed a disarming maneuver. I made sure to close my eyes like a man. I see. He must have been desperate. The next thing I knew, his white coat was drenched in a sea of my blood, and then the next thing I knew... Yes? He punched me right in my face, sir! Right, so he didn't kill him. At what time did you regain consciousness? No offense, sir, but how am I supposed to know that? I was unconscious. Oh, right. According to the report from the officer that woke up the witness, it was about 5:30. It hit me right in the head, too! I woke up crying tears of pain! That's nice, or, I mean, it's nice that you recovered, that is. When I came around, though, I made sure to finish my mission, sir! Your mission? Yes, sir, the Blue Badger, sir! returned him to the entrance before things got out of hand. Well, we can all rest easy now. This is what he was telling us yesterday. But we need to try and skim some more details from him. For starters, what was an officer from the General Affairs Department doing in there in the first place? Right, let's press him for all he's worth. Mr. Meekins, you work in the General Affairs Department, do you not? Yes, sir! I'm in charge of hiring new recruits, sir! Yikes, now there's a scary thought. Evidence transferal was taking place on the day of the crime, which meant many officers were given special tasks not ordinarily performed. I was in charge of guarding the Blue Badger, sir! The Blue Badger? Yes, sir, the lovely police chief mascot created by the chief of detectives, sir! I was meant to ensure it wasn't broken during the transferal process. That was my sole mission for the day, sir! I see. Sounds like a very, important mission. After the award ceremony finished that day, there were so many people running around that I relocated to the Blue Badger to the evidence room. Oh, so that's why you went to the evidence room. Tell us, what did you see when you got there? I spotted the suspicious man on the security screen and rushed into the room. All right, yeah. In order to enter the evidence room, you need an ID card, am I correct? Precisely, sir, I have one right around my neck. So then, your ID number should be listed on here, right? There it is, I found it! This is the one right here! Could you please read us the number? Yes, sir, it's 498-9596. That's my number, sir! I see, huh. Well, the number 498-9596 is shown as being used twice. Please explain, witness. It's no real mystery, sir. The first time is when I relocated the Blue Badger to the evidence room. And the second time is when I went to go get him after everything settled down. I see, so it was during that second time when... Yes, sir, that was when I spotted the man on the security screen. Now... So you were attacked. Can you please tell us exactly what happened to you? It was a knife, sir! A knife! Detective Goodman pulled a knife on you? What happened then? Well, with me charging in on him like that, he looked as surprised as I was. You are exactly the kind of person someone would want to run into. That's when I reacted, sir! I swung my arms like an octopus, struggling to detain him. That's how I got this gash on my hand. Maybe if you just kept your cool, your hand wouldn't be... When I saw the blood trickling down my arm, I panicked. I grabbed the man by his collar. I believe we now have a fairly accurate picture of what happened. Yes, Your Honor. Only one thing remains unclear. Was the man this officer murdered really the victim? He's got a point. Yes, Officer Meekins? With regard to that, sir, take a look at this. It was sent to my jail cell. Chief Gant delivered it to me just this morning, sir. Chief? Delivered it? What is that? Videotape? Yes, sir, that's absolutely right, sir. A videotape, sir. It contains footage from the security camera in the evidence room. What? But I specifically asked if there was such a tape. I was told it had been mistakenly erased. That's quite a mistake. I just do what I'm told, sir. That's the only thing I'm really good at. Looks like communication with the police department is as good as ever. Well then, let's have a look. Show us the video of you murdering the victim. Oh, please stop using that word murder, sir. It scares me. A video of a real murder. Just what are we getting ourselves into? Oh, look at the blue badger being an adorable bastard. Right, so that was Jake Marshall shoving the thing in, wasn't it? Because the jacket appeared at the end. Well, I believe we're all thinking the same thing. How can we deal with these unsettling feelings stirred within us? What the hell was that wriggling piece of plywood? Sir, that is the pride and joy of the entire criminal affairs department, sir! It's the Blue Badgers, sir! Why am I not surprised this isn't going smoothly? Right, security video added to the court records. Yes, well, anyway. This tape seems to prove that the witness did indeed encounter someone in the evidence room, and some sort of activity did take place. Your Honor, instead of relying on clearly incomplete footage, the witness's testimony will suffice. Is that alright with you, Officer Meekins? Yes, sir, as you wish, sir! His face can't be clearly seen in the video, but there's no question that the other person was Detective Goodman, sir! I mean, he opened the locker, which required Detective Goodman's fingerprint to do. The locker he opened is unquestionably Detective Goodman's locker, sir. So it must be him. No one else could have unlocked it. Each detective has been given a locker equipped with a fingerprint-activated lock. These locks ensure that each locker can only be opened by the detective it belongs to. Intriguing. That would mean the victim at the crime scene would have to have been Detective Goodman. Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination. I don't know where this cross-examination will lead. It's true. Who knows? But everything begins with contradictions. That's where I have to start. Fucking... I don't know how I'm going to get round to presenting the video and the cloak that appears, the jacket that appears, the coat. Sorry, just hold on 1 second. Apologies. Right. His face can't be clearly seen. Alright, yeah, I've already read through all that. Tell me, were you able to get a good look at him? At the face of the man who attacked you with a knife? Sir! If you must label people as having seen or not seen the man's face, I believe I would be classified as the latter. The latter? But you were standing right in front of him, were you not? More to the point, you are the person who fought him, aren't you? Oh, yes, sir, but I didn't get a clear look at his face. I'm not the kind of guy who looks directly at people when talking with them, you see? Yeah, that's good a trait for a police officer. Still, I'm sure it was him. I bet my badge on it. But there's no question that the other person was the detective. But you don't know that for sure, do you? You never actually saw Detective Goodman's face. Well, I suppose you might say that. That is, if you must label someone as... Oh wait, is that... Alright, since his face can't be identified in the video, only you can verify it. Why is everyone looking at me? If I had to label your stares as disturbing or... Meekins! Having been shown a questionable video at best, we are not in the best of moods. Now please, be more certain when you testify. Yes, sir! You claimed that the man who brandished the knife on you was Bruce Goodman. Tell us why you were positive it was him. About these lockers, is there no other way to open them? No, sir, I tried all kinds of methods in the past. They only respond to registered fingerprints, sir. I wonder what kind of methods he's tried. If the man opened the locker's lock, which only responds to his registered fingerprints, then he must be the person the locker was assigned to. Exactly my point, sir, and this too! How do you know that information? I've heard rumors, sir, from people in the know, sir! People in the know? The workers of the department cafeteria, sir! They can't be informed! They also listen to my romantic troubles, sir! For the record, the open locker did indeed belong to Detective Goodman. I verified this information through a more reliable source. So the victim opened the locker with his own fingerprint. So it must be him! No one else could have unlocked it! This all sounds true enough. Right. Maybe if I present the video? Right, however, the most important detail is not shown in the video, the man's face. So, sir, if I may say something, sir? Please do, after all, you are the one being examined. I don't understand why the man's face is so important in this case, sir. I mean, it was his hand that opened the fingerprint lock. And it was his hand that tried to thrust his knife into my body, sir. My unsettled state can testify enough to this, sir. Yes, you have a point. The footage doesn't lie. That is... Unless the defense can find a problem with it. Mr. Wright, let's check the court records again. Is there a problem with the security video? Yeah, there's a problem. There's one thing in particular that seems rather strange. Strange? This contradiction leads to the possibility that the man may not have been Detective Goodman. What? This video contains such a contradiction? Interesting. Your Honor, I have a proposal. Yes, Mr. Edgeworth? I propose we have the defense point out to us this alleged contradiction in the video. He would want me to point it out, but of course he would. Very well, proposal accepted. Let us further inspect this piece of evidence. I will now play the security tape. Mr. Wright, please show us this contradiction you speak of. I have to point out a problem in the video. This is the first time I've ever had to do that. You can do it, Mr. Wright. It's set up so you can fast forward, rewind, or pause the video. Just take a good look and be sure to point out the right thing. Please don't play it too many times. I can't stand watching this video. How did this guy ever become a police officer? Now then, Mr. Wright, please enlighten us. Where is the contradiction that indicates the man may not be Detective Goodman? I do love how this video was made, though. Just like making sure the flag and all stops his face from being seen. It's fucking beautiful. Right. The thing that's strange about this video has got to be this. Yes, that is strange. Something certainly seems unnatural about that. What could it mean? Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Wright, but you seem to have forgotten the point of this exercise. The point? What are you looking for is one thing and one thing only. Something that indicates the man may not be Detective Goodman. Oh yeah. I'll place him under arrest, sir. Rats. I need to slow down and tackle these things one piece at a time. Now what do I do? Wait, what? So it's not, Right, so is the glove falling out of, Goodman's locker, then? Was the light already on the thing indicating that it was already open? Ah, yeah, okay. Okay, well that'll do. I thought showing off the jacket would have been something. The thing that's strange about this video has got to be this. Officer Meekins. Sir, do you mean me, sir? As I understand it, the locker operates like the apparatus works like this. When you grab the handle, a sensor reads your fingerprint. If it's a match, the light turns on and the lock is released. According to my very limited experience, that's the way I understand it, sir. If so, then something is seriously wrong with this picture. Do we have to watch the whole video again, seriously? When the victim reaches for the handle to open the locker, let's rewind to a little earlier. For God's sake. I could have sped this up a bit. Here, notice the light? What's this? It's already lit. Precisely my point, Your Honor. The locker was already open before the victim grabbed the handle. Order! What's the meaning of this? It's very simple, Your Honor. The locker wasn't locked on the day of the crime. But the locker locks are controlled by an electronic system. When a door is shut, the sensor is triggered, and the locker is automatically locked. Oh, I know, it must have broken down. Of course, I'm not an expert in this. That's not likely, Your Honor. The sensor would detect and report any malfunction. Oh, well, it just goes to show novices should keep their mouths shut. So then, Mr. Wright, do you have an explanation? Me, Your Honor? Yes, why wasn't the locker locked? Oh, great, I have to show the glove falling. Yes, well, you see, this isn't exactly my field. What do you think, Miss Scientific Investigator? Maybe something like jammed the system sensor. Something jammed the sensor? Say, there's something else that seems out of place in this video. Yeah, I thought so too. There's got to be another clue in somewhere in this footage. Ah, boy. Axis rewind. There we go. Please watch closely. This is the continuation of the part I showed you earlier. Oh, for God. Do we have to start back at the very beginning again? Oh, and in slow motion too. I'm gonna die. What's this? Something white fell out of the locker. But sir, it's been my experience that things fall out when doors are opened.
Objection!
I often... We can't be sure that item was completely inside the locker to begin with. What do you mean? The sensor triggers the lock when the door is shut. What if something was inserted, say, between the sensor and the door? Inserted? Oh, for Christ's sake, just get on with it. This white thing wasn't inside the locker. It was stuck between the door and the sensor. Oh, I understand now, sir. It's just like my tie. 2 out of 3 times I get stuck in the door when I get out of my patrol vehicle, sir. Instead of the door closing, my tie chokes me. But the object would have to be extremely thin to fit in the door. Not only that, it would also have to block electrical currents. It would need to be an insulator. Yes, an insulator. But at the crime scene, there just might have been something that fits the description. But sir, by insulator you don't mean... I have finally got this figured out. Very well, will the defense please present the relevant evidence? What was the insulator that was stuck in the door? Right, the glove, clearly. It was clearly a glove. Oh, excuse me. I found this near the locker, a thin rubber glove. But we can't be sure that was in the victim's locker. It has a tag that says SL9 incident. The video seems to depict the victim opening the locker, but that isn't the case. The little lamp attests to this. On the day of the crime, even I could have opened that locker. Is this not so, Officer Meekins? Sir! It would appear so, sir! Order, order, order! So are we to believe then that the victim, whom this witness stabbed in the evidence room, was not Detective Goodman? Do not be misled, Your Honor. What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? The defense has merely demonstrated the possibility and nothing more. The victim in the video was indeed Bruce Goodman. The prosecution will offer one more testimony to prove this. What? Officer Meekins? Please testify about this. Sir, me, sir? I'm not sure what you're referring to, sir. Oh, you mean that, sir? Of course, sir. Is this a joke? Very well, begin your testimony. There's another thing that proves the man was Detective Goodman, sir. To enter the evidence room, one must use their ID card. When an ID card is used, there's a record of it. At the time of the crime, the detective had used his card. An ID card record, I see. I have the ID card record right here, Your Honor. The ID card was used at 5:14. Is that of the victim? Just before the crime. Yes, without a doubt, this is the victim's ID. However, one thing does strike me as unusual. Several hundred cases should have been due for transferal. Why were there so few people using this room? This particular evidence room is only used for storing certain special cases. Special cases? Extremely violent cases involving police staff. Just hearing that makes my hair stand on end. Me too, although it doesn't make much of a difference. Ha 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 ha. There were only a few cases up for transferal there, and most were cleared by noon. Right, I see. Now let us move on to the cross-examination. So unlike your earlier testimony, you believe this to be rock solid, do you? Yes, sir, solid as stone, sir. If my hand wasn't wrapped in bandages, I'd even give the V for victory sign, sir. Couldn't he just use his right hand for that? Let's hear him out fully. As we've seen, one never knows what he might say until the very last second. Is that card hanging from your neck one of those ID cards? Yes, sir, this card right here, next to my cuff, sir. I keep it here so I won't ever forget it. But what if someone were to steal it from you, keeping it out in the open like that? Maybe I shouldn't wear it around my neck. I remember when I said 2 out of 3 times my tag gets stuck when I get out of my car. Well, the remaining time is my ID card that gets stuck. Instead of the door closing, my ID card chokes me. Maybe I should just leave this one alone. At any rate, each police officer has only one ID card. Both the police department and the prosecutor's office can attest to this. Please proceed with your testimony. Let it be noted that this is the record the witness referred to. Let me see. Yes, that would be it, Detective Goodman. What's the matter? According to this, Mr. Edgeworth, your name is on here. So it is, Your Honor. Not that prosecutor again. Hey, maybe he's behind all this. Being a prosecutor, he could hide the evidence. Mommy, is that man in blue a murderer? Shh, don't stare at him. You've got the wrong color, kid. It would seem the inquiry committee will want to speak with you again today. I have nothing to be ashamed of regarding my actions or their consequences. For now, let us continue with this cross-examination. Poor Mr. Edgeworth, it must be so difficult for him. Earlier, I believe you testified that when you asked the man to show his ID card, he pulled a knife on you. Yes, sir! He didn't show me any ID card, sir! Don't you think that's odd? I mean, if he had his ID card, all he had to do was show it to you. There wouldn't be any reason to draw a knife. But maybe he just panicked! Everything stems from contradictions, let's point them out. Mr. Wright, what do you think? I'm confused. What? The problem with his ID card testimony is far too obvious. It's not like Edgeworth to miss something like this. You're thinking too hard about it. Come on, let's show what we got. Wait one moment, Officer Meekins. I'm not good at waiting, sir! I have the victim's ID card right here. I found it in the crime scene. That makes sense. When I say crime scene, I'm not referring to the evidence room at the police department. I mean the other crime scene. The underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. Your Honor, I have one more piece of evidence to present. It's very important regarding the victim's ID card. A lost item report? It's only half completed. But it showed that Detective Goodman had lost something on the day of the crime. Something important enough to fill out this report. Let me guess, you believe this something to be his ID card, right? I can't say for sure, but there is a high probability. On the day of the crime, Detective Goodman was not carrying his card. Order! So now, what does this all mean? It can only mean one thing. It doesn't even require much thought. The man Officer Meekins encountered in the evidence room was not Detective Goodman, but rather the man who stole his ID card. Order! Does the prosecution have a response? I have only one thing to say to the defense. Bravo, Mr. Wright. Bravo? Allow me to summarize the defense's argument. At 5:15 p.m. on the day of the crime, The man in the evidence room Officer Meekins encountered was not Detective Goodman. There are two grounds to support this. First, the locker in the evidence room was already unlocked. Second, the victim lost his ID card. Am I correct so far, Mr. Wright? Yes. What's he up to? That being the case, we must inevitably arrive at a single conclusion. If the victim in this video was a fake, then the murder in the evidence room is also fake. In other words, the security camera does not show the instant of the murder. Oh, that is... well, I guess that's right. Is something wrong, Mr. Wright? Only moments ago you seemed content to be pointing your finger around. This isn't going to end well. Well, well, it seems you finally realized exactly what you've gone to such lengths to prove. Explain yourself, Mr. Edgeworth. The defense has already done the explaining for me. The victim in this video is a fake, which means the murder did not take place at the police department at 5:15 on the day of the crime. So the real crime could only take place at the one location, the underground parking lot. At the prosecutor's office, the murderer being Miss Lana Skye, the defendant. The evidence is compelling. A trustworthy witness observed the moment the defendant used the murder weapon. I knew that testimony was way too shabby. It was all a trap from the beginning. The activity in the evidence room still leaves many questions unanswered. Who exactly was the victim Officer Meekins encountered? And where did this person disappear to? However, this trial's purpose is to examine only the murder of Detective Goodman. Just so, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, you have to do something, or else Lana... What do I do? How am I supposed to get myself out of this mess? Objection! One moment, Your Honor. What now, Mr. Wright? Don't tell me you're objecting to what you've just proven. Of course not. But I almost walked right into the prosecutor's trap. What are you talking about? This cross-examination has proven one thing and one thing only. The security video did not show the actual murder. However, it cannot be said that it is unrelated to the murder in the parking lot. Specifically, large amounts of blood traces were found in the evidence room. The defense demands further examination into the truth of the matter. Mr. Edgeworth? Yes, Your Honor? If this court were to examine this further, other witnesses will be necessary. Is the prosecution prepared? I'm sorry, Your Honor. The prosecution considered the incident at the police department to be unrelated. We have not prepared any witnesses for this incident. This just might be my chance. Time to call a certain Texas Ranger to the stand. Mr. Wright, do you mean... Your Honor, the defense would like to request a specific witness. Oh, whom do you have in mind? Someone we have reason to believe knows the truth. The truth behind the activities that took place in the evidence room. The prosecution requests to hear this person's name before deciding whether or not to comply. Very well then, Mr. Wright. This person who said would testify. Who you would have testify, what is his or her name? Take that! Officer Jake Marshall. Why him? I can't let Edgeworth know everything just yet. He's in charge of the evidence room. I feel we should hear what he has to say. The prosecution agrees to the defense's request. Since you're responsible for guarding the room, we should hear his testimony. Fortunately, he works in the police department. We shouldn't need longer than 20 minutes to prepare. Very well. The court will take a 30-minute recess while the witness is subpoenaed. Will the prosecution please prepare the witness during this time? We will, Your Honor. Court is now in recess. There's no stopping you, is there, Mr. Wright? Huh? What do you mean? You called for Jake Marshall. It seems you've figured everything out. I haven't figured anything out. Lana, you're the one who knows everything. Emma, you always know everything. Why don't you just tell us? Mr. Wright is trying his hardest to protect you. I don't recall ever asking for his protection. How can you be so cold? Don't you trust us? Don't you trust me? Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later. Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it? You've got a lot of nerve, pal, making a detective run around all while on duty. And to top it off, you called me here. I've seen happier people at funerals. Sorry, Detective. You better be, pal. Hey. Hey, 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 hey! I didn't see you there, Chief Prosecutor Sky. That's okay, so have you brought what I asked? Oh ho, oh ho ho, oh ho 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 ho. You mean this, right? My apologies, Detective. Due to my present circumstances, I was forced to use Mr. Wright's name when making my request. My name? Never in a million years would I have thought it was you who asked me. Could I bother you to bring me the SL9 into the case files? I'll need them by noon. Talk about crazy. The SL9 incident? But Lana, that's... I thought Mr. Wright might need them, so I had them brought here. Here, you might do well to read them. Can't believe the Chief Prosecutor were a witness in that case. Miss Sky, that was a witness? Take it from me, you don't want anything to do with the serial murders. Oh, what? Now that I've brought you your stuff, you're gonna just ignore me? Emma? But why? Why is your name in here? What? My name's in there? I don't know. Unless... No, it couldn't be Lana. This SL9 is that? That's the classification number for the police file. The police filed it under. 2 years ago, the rest of the world knew it as the Joe Dark killings. The Joe Dark. No, Lana. That's over with. No. Emma, wait. She ran away. You know, I just remembered. I gotta be somewhere. Sorry, pal, but I'm out of here. Jake Marshall, Angel Starr, Damon Gant, Miles Edgeworth. Not to mention Lana and Emma. Everyone involved in this case is connected to those killings 2 years ago. This can't be just a coincidence. Knowing you just might be able to figure it out. Time to get back to the trial, Mr. Wright. Best of luck. I better take a good look at this file. I'll be right back. Alright, let's see if the mic's still working now that I'm back. Yep. Okay, that's fine. Right. Onwards we go. I already saved it, didn't I? Yeah, I'll save it again just to be sure. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Sky. Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of the guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Me, partner? Oh, I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trails of civilization. Occasionally helping the elderly across intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know, you're a patrolman. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind calling it out. To be exact, Miss Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? I've never heard Edward described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime that took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner. What do you mean? A desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at a street-side saloon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time to hit the trail. I can't say I particularly care for your attitude. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a complete cowpoke like you knows about those. Yes, well, what about the fingerprints activated locks on the evidence lockers? Fingerprint activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. He's not that good with machines or following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours. My job was to keep wearing... Right, yeah. You used to be a detective, so you've used the evidence room in the past, correct? Of course, back in the day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence. And yet, you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism? Sorry, partner, I ain't good with machines. I couldn't even tell you how a bike works. That's quite, incredible. The sensors in the locker handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. Now that he mentions it, Detective Gumshoe said something like that too. At any rate, it doesn't seem that this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place? What were you doing in a place like that? I was eating spaghetti. Not even Angel steak lunches could beat that parlour's fungal sepia pasta. Do you mean to tell us you abandoned your police duty to eat some noodles? Not all desperados eat tacos, partner. That's not what I meant. I hope this has at least taught you a lesson. That's strange. This is unusually where Edward says... Did you not want to erase this year? Out of ammo, Officer Marshall? That's right, partner, as you'd call it, evidence. If you plan to pin me to this crime, then you'd better draw. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time. My stealed horse is waiting to carry me back west into the sunset. One thing seems clear. Despite being responsible for guarding the evidence room, the witness doesn't appear to have seen anything. Texans don't take orders from anyone. Everyone knows that. Apparently your superiors don't. Okay, I have a trump card up my sleeve, so I'd best keep my cool. Before I use it though, I'd better up the ante. How exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room? I just made sure nothing moved in security camera monitor. That room's so still. Even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who interred the recordings. You interred them? Videos of nothing aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape. There's nothing unusual as recorded tapes are to be erased every 6 hours. Each time I'd erase a tape, it felt like I was erasing a part of my life. This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't going to do him any good. So in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room? But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right? Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style. I'm afraid I don't understand. No desperado I know lets rules get in his way. No desperados I know join the police force. So Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime? Just between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day. There was a rubber glove stuck to the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, partner, can't say I do. I haven't been in that crypt for weeks. How does this guy avoid being fired? Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. And yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint. Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects, that is. Make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints will be in there. I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. Witness, what's the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene? The blood was wiped away, however. A luminol test kit clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall? It seems to me there ain't the person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall? About the blood-stained fingerprints? Right. Let's get this out of the way. Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See? I had nothing to do with it. The witness's explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt. Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. This guy's hiding something, I can feel it. Now's my only chance to prove it. Right. I don't know whether to press or go straight for the jugular. We'll press them and see what happens. That's because how did you put it, pay your respects once a month? Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine. What? What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now, though, is a heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently his fingerprint data was never removed from the locker's program. He must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without ever knowing it. Okay, now we'll question everything and move on from there. So then, what about the bloody handprint? Wasn't mine, it's no mystery. Please explain. My locker is covered with my fingerprints. It just so happened? Chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. On the contrary, one could argue that just the opposite. The chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward from me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why? Unrelated. They're as different as night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's got to do with breakfast, while the other's the type of murder. He's right. Although seemingly alike, they're totally different. I don't see what homonyms have to do with this. How do you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports. There was a blood stain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer. That's right, it was found in Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprint were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too. So that would mean the murderer wearing gloves happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint. That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? This seal of blood in the desert is just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. The security tape. So long as my trail isn't in here, you can't say otherwise. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Now, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. What, the video doesn't count here? What do you mean by that? You want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have. But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots? Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could have left the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculation, Mr. Wright. Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please. Okay. So it was just about pressing the whole way through. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. Hopefully it doesn't show too much at the end of the video whenever we get to it. Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall. The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. That locker with the white cloth sticking out? That was the witnesses, I believe. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. Oh, the white cloth, it's gone. What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Order! Hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what if my locker was opened? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened the locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? This guy just isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rail on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say I opened that locker? Nah, prove it. Christ. He really is dumb as fuck. A fingerprint sensor? We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. But what kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There are even some people in the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? Only got one word for you, partner. No! Good line. Good line. Order! Witness, explain yourself! This is a joke. It's the worst I've ever heard. I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime. Olay, please answer the question. What is he now, a bullfighter? That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure the rest out from here. We can? Have a look at these floor plans. There is no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so, then where was the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right. The only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? Take that! Officer Marshall was standing right here. There, but that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct, unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. Did you dress up like Detective Goodman? But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed a detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his card, sir! Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond? He suddenly pulled a knife on me! Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? Yes, he would have needed to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? You've got quite an imagination, partner. We've got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it. You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as a victim. I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. This can't be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? Looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics? For me, that would be what Maya used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside the box. Returning to the basics doesn't seem like thinking outside the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise. But rather, I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was open in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yeah, he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later as it had been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that. He opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So, just what exactly is this piece of cloth? Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot. Very well, let's take yet another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness. For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated you all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be where we are now, would we? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did, all of it. All right. It seems the time has come. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. I managed to escape. I knew which areas would be caught on the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. So the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It's way too much blood for such a small donation. When you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to be completely end with the transferal that day. None of I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at myself one more time, no matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner, that case is mine. But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance, that's why I... Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like the Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera? And the detective's ID card? I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out that lost item report. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. Really fucking up my fucking... What do you mean, partner? I mean, the fingerprint activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself. But he could because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck on the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins, I knocked him out. But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What, are you blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence from the locker. Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related some way to that case. I'd better take another look at the files. Right, Right. Perpetrator Joe Dark, crime serial murder sentence to death. Victims Edward Jones, Jason Knight, Rachel Moss, Neil Marshall, Jeb Bates, Edith Kirby. Head Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth, witnesses Lana Skye and Emma Skye. Executive Investigators Damon Gant and Lana Skye. Head Investigator Bruce Goodman. Investigators Jake Marshall and Angel Starr. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a one-in-a-million type of person, mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year. When did Edgeworth get so influential? or so much influence. Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry I had to turn out that way, with me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say. So you knocked Officer Meekins out and... So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. Security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat and your struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby. So what you're saying is, on that day... Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID card, injuring a police officer. This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case, this one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason that the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something that went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him what I think his real reason is. Right, okay. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall, are you related to this man? Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors award. Now I remember, Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right, he was killed, and the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, the Deputy Chief of Police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least according to public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it. That's your reason for your insane actions. There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with his resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's got to be more than that. So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one. Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. But wait, a verdict wasn't reached at yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. Seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All of the mysteries of the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of one Miss Angel Starr is completely uncontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. Arr! That rests my case. It seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time. Disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera tape really was fake, but I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant. Your Honor, wait! Emma? The defense is an objection, a scientific objection. Right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright? Are you this girl's guardian, Your Honor? Oh, in a sense... Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking for is a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finally at the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dart killings. Now that she mentions it, the names of both Skye sisters were in that file. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprints had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing, the other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found in Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on him, right? No, but I figured out if I examined scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again. So, did you find something? No. Huh? Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Is that all? Please don't be mad, I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them... Please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you. Me? Oh boy. Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be... Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day. Yes, Your Honor. If ever I've needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with the handprint of Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? This handprint left at the crime scene. Clearly, shows a contradiction. The only thing clear is that you're grasping, Mr. Wright. You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them? Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark. Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright. With all this evidence here, there's gotta be something I can use. The question is, which element can prove something is missing in the floor plans?
Take that!
What about that piece of plywood? The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force. Defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well, what? That's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint on this spot on the locker. What? So that means, just exactly what does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker. Don't look at me, I didn't put it there. So right, think it through scientifically. Emma, on that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on the locker. So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in. Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom. It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape, taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is the other time... Someone bled prior to the struggle shown in this tape. It had to have been... Detective Goodman, when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murderer portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found in the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur? To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room. That's right, the blood mark on the locker proves this. Very well, then tell us, when did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edwards said, proof must be presented. Right, okay, let's present the ID card manifest thing. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter it, and in order to do so, an ID card would have been required. An ID card? Oh, the ID card record! Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m. Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done? I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room. Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining, 777777. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his car being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 777777. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 777-77777. That's 17 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least at present. What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 777-777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. That's ridiculous. Just how... I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority. Where an official charge filed against an executive is accepted. An official charge? You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you kept your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question. Yes? No, not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked up her ID number, and it's not 777-777. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. The SL9 incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At that time, occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least I did. Alana. I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, just what are you trying to say? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look at me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't. I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana, even if it involved forging evidence... See, that's what I'm talking about. No. No, no! Oh god, it's a riot. Order, order, order! Lana's remarks caused such a stir, the chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion would have to wait till the following day. Okay. Right. I'm gonna call it there for the night. We've got on a good bit now with the thing. We should be going to the final day of the trial now. And then that should be it. That should be the end of Phoenix Wright. So hopefully next time we'll get it all finished up. God, it might be a long stream. Might have to end up splitting it into two because it's time for the cases to get pretty fucking long, especially with investigations and stuff. But we will see. Right. Talk to you later.